All righty then. What do you say? What do you know? I know that here at Patriot Uprising, we choose greatness. And there's nothing more great, nothing greater than a nice cup of rich, dark roast coffee. Unless it's some cool, refreshing water. Because here's something else that we know. Commie-crats, they hate you, they hate me, they hate America. And tonight's show is going to be about the lying liars and the lies they tell. Okay, we all know that Democrats lie like they breathe. They lie like it's their job. Schiff is a proven liar. And every time he's busted on a lie, he pivots to a new line of lying. He had incontrovertible proof. Proof. He had it. He said it was in his possession. He had, in his words, incontrovertible proof that Trump colluded with the Russians. And when that lie was blown out of the water, then he said he had proof that Trump colluded with Ukraine because of a whistleblower. Don't say that name. We can't out the whistleblower. If you don't know the whistleblower's name, Shifty, how do you know that saying someone in particular's name would be outing the whistleblower? Called to troll his campaign today and say that my name was Eric Charmella and I'd like to volunteer for his campaign. If you're a lady out there, you want to troll his campaign, you can do so. Just say that your name is Erica Charmella. All right? So, he sits there, completely denies all witnesses. Under the rules, Republicans were supposed to get a day for their own witnesses to be put on. Under the rules, as long as they gave sufficient notice, which they did, they were entitled to have their own day. Denied. All witnesses denied. In most of the relevant questions, the lady will suspend, the lady will suspend, the lady will suspend. I don't even know if I can do it with my eyes. Are my eyes doing it? I don't even know if I can get as bug-eyed as he is. Maybe I have to go like this. The gentleman will suspend. I mean, he's a freak show on 2 feet. And then you got Nadler and Nancy. Have we seen Nadler or Nancy, except for Nadler at the committee? Have we seen a presser from the Democrats in the last month where they weren't in front of a row of flags, all neatly folded? American flags. We're standing up for the country. We're standing up for the Republican. Donald J. Trump is a threat. We're standing up. We're defending the Constitution. Bullshit. It's been proven to be a lie. Everything has been a lie. Even Chris Wallace, and I know we don't really like Chris Wallace, but even Chris Wallace was forced to commit some journalism this week because Comey lies so much. And I know he says he's registered as a Republican, and I know McCabe says he's a Republican, and I know Mueller says he's a Republican. They're not Republicans. They're deep state globalist swampers. Okay? Republican or Democrat doesn't matter. It's country before party. And here's how you know that Democrats are putting party before country. Because they say that they're putting country before party. When they say we're putting country before party, what they mean is we're putting party before country. Because remember, they live in bizarro America, where up is down, left is right, and right is wrong. And their mouth-breathing, mindless minions just parrot what they say. They swallow the talking points whole without so much as even a single chew and regurgitate them back. Comey, watching that interview on Fox Sunday, he was channeling his inner Blutarsky. Okay? I half expected him to say, hey, you effed up. You trusted us. That's pretty much what it came down to. Here's the relevant section that I want you to focus on. Chris actually held his feet to the fire, and you tell me how well Comey came off.
Horowitz concludes 3 separate teams made significant errors in 4 separate FISA applications on one of the FBI's most significant cases. I mean, the investigation of President Trump and his campaign.
He was Trump. I have to keep correcting you. President Trump was not being investigated. His campaign was not being investigated. 4 Americans, 2 of whom were no longer associated with the campaign, were being investigated.
Okay. He was asked how he explains it. Horowitz, here he is.
It's unclear what the motivations were. On the one hand, gross incompetence, negligence. On the other hand, intentionality.
Gross negligence, or they intended to do it. They intended to lie to the FISA court. You were in charge during a lot of this, sir. And in fact, you signed the FISA applications.
Sure, I think I signed at least 2 or 3 of them. He doesn't conclude that there was intentional misconduct by these career special agents.
No, he just says it's one of 2 things and he can't decide. Gross negligence or it was intentional misconduct.
Well,
that's what he said.
I've read his report. He says, we are not concluding that there was intentional misconduct by FBI.
Did you hear what he just said here?
I did. I don't know the context of that. I've read.
He was asked specifically, how do you explain it? And he said gross negligence or intentionality.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. He doesn't find intentionality, but that doesn't make it any less important. As director, you are responsible for this. I was responsible for this, and if I were still there, I'd be doing what Chris Wray is doing, is figuring out, so how did this happen, and is it systemic?
How did this happen? How? Okay, it was because the Attorney General told me that the President told her to do it, but I don't know. How did it happen? Thank God Comey's not still there. Did you see him try to dance? Well, no, and stick to the talking point? No, he didn't find that there was intentionality. Yeah, he said they're either incompetent or they lied. And, if you read the paragraph further, because they all stuck together and spewed the same story that I don't believe, I can't decide whether it was incompetence or intentional lying. I can't determine whether it was incompetence or lying. Horowitz is not a swamp rat. Anybody that comments that Horowitz is a swamp rat, Horowitz is a bushy, Horowitz is deep state, Horowitz is this, that, or the other thing, you need to not listen to those people. And if you're one of those people, you need to listen and learn, because Horowitz is not. That report was one of the finest reports of its kind that I have read. An inspector general's job is to find out if there was misconduct, and if there was misconduct, to recommend a course of correction so that it doesn't happen again. That's it. That's it. People don't walk out in handcuffs in a perp walk because an inspector general issued a report. That's not how it works. Horowitz gave an incredibly detailed and thorough report, step by step, laid out every single piece of evidence. Democrats cannot say that any evidence was kept from the American public because it's all right there in Horowitz's report, 476 pages of it. And the relevant paragraph says, we found no documentary or testamentary evidence, meaning we didn't find anything we can take to the court and say, here's your smoking gun. These people need to be prosecuted. And he said, we can't determine whether it was gross misconduct or intentionality, whether they were incompetent or they lied. We can't determine because they're lying. And then he goes on in the paragraph to say, and the reason we can't determine is because they didn't answer any of our questions sufficiently. He says, we don't believe their answers. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what his sentence means. They gave us BS answers, and we don't believe those answers. Therefore, we can't say with certainty whether they're stupid or they're liars. Remember the trick I gave you last week? I told you it's important to have a quiver full of arrows, and that one of the biggest arrows is to put your opponent in a no-win situation, a Hobson's choice. Remember I said a Hobson's choice was you can have any horse in the barn you want as long as you want the next one in line. Henry Ford, you can have any color car you want as long as you want black. That's a Hobson's choice. It's a choice with no choice. That's what you want. You always want to be pushing and always want to keep your rhetorical opponent on the defensive, back on their heels, trying to, stave off your attack. You give them a choice that's no choice. Are you stupid or are you a liar? Are you evil or are you incompetent? Either way, it's heads I win, tails you lose. Okay, that's what you want to do, and that's what Horowitz did in his testimony last week. And Comey tried sticking to, he didn't find any intentionality. This report absolves the FBI of any intentional misconduct. No, it doesn't. The report said they're either grossly incompetent or they're liars. And Chris Wallace called him on that and kept pressing his feet to the fire. And you can see by his response that he was just going to dance around it and not answer the question honestly. And that I was in charge. The buck stops with me. It's my fault. And if I were Chris Wray, I would be asking, how did this happen? Yeah, you signed them. You know exactly how they happened. You signed 3 of the 4. Lanky Cardinal Comey needs to go to the clink. And I don't mean Lori Loughlin time. Remember the Watergate burglars? Okay. John Ehrlichman got off. I think Chuck Colson got off the easiest. He only served 15 months. Ehrlichman served a couple of years. E. Howard Hunt served 2.5 years. And Liddy served the most. Liddy was sentenced to 20. And he was, Jimmy Carter pardoned him down to 8 years. And then he got out when his parole first came up after 4.5 years. But Gordon Liddy served 4.5 years. He actually teamed up in the 80s with Timothy Leary. And they gave a series of debates. And one of them was at my college. And it was fascinating because here's wacko Timothy Leary. Tune in, turn on, drop out. And here's G. Gordon Liddy. And Liddy was completely amoral. I'm not going to say he was immoral. He was amoral. Okay, it was just he wasn't concerned at all with the morality of his actions. He was a soldier, and he was saying, this is what needed to be done, and this is what I did. And Liddy came off way better than Timothy Leary. Timothy Leary's whole thesis was, get this, the history of the progression of knowledge shifted ever westward. Okay, it started in China with Confucianism, and then to India with the Ayurvedic yoga and all of that, and Nepal's in between. So it went from China to Nepal with the Buddhist monks, and then in the Dalai Lama, and then to India, and then to the Arab world, and then to Egypt, and then to Western Europe and England, and then it came to America, and all the fresh new thought was in America in the 1600s and 1700s, the rebellion, new country, new ideas, the westward expansion. And they've gotten as far west as they could go. In California, and this is 1982, California, or maybe 83, California represents the pinnacle of human thought and free thinking and of awareness and everything wonderful. Timothy Leary would love the California today that's literally a leftist shithole, overrun by illegals, with needles on the sidewalk, and you have to dodge dookie drops everywhere you go. He would love that San Francisco. But Liddy, he stuck to his guns. You had to admire the man. You couldn't respect where he was coming from at all, but you had to grudgingly admire the fact that he believed in what he was doing. He stuck to his guns. He didn't pull a John Dean and try to weasel out of it. He said, no, I did it. I did it because I believed it was the right thing to do, and I would do it again. I said, okay, wrong, immoral, but okay. You know, you're sticking to your guns. I can respect that. I give the Democrats grudging respect for sticking to their guns. I've said it many times. The president has even said it. I've said it for decades. He's said it for the last couple years. He's new to politics. You got to admire the fact that they stick together. You know, one will lie and all the others will swear to it. And the Republicans scatter like mice. As soon as, you know, someone walks in the room with a carving knife, they're all worried about losing their tail, so they all scurry. Now, everybody's all saying, well, if there's a full trial, we need a full trial. You're just buying into the Democrats' lies, okay? So let me get back to the lies that they're telling. They lied about Russia. We know that now because of the Mueller report. There was no collusion with Russia. So they pivoted to Ukraine. Ukraine is all a lie. The FISA warrants were all illegitimately obtained. We know that because of the Horowitz report. Their articles, even though they briefly flirted with extortion and bribery, neither of those are in the articles. The articles are for obstruction of Congress, which isn't even a thing. That article literally says, we want to remove this president because the president told someone that we were thinking of subpoenaing not to testify before us if we subpoenaed them. So even though we never did subpoena them, we need to remove the president. That's literally what the obstruction of Congress boils down to. They never subpoenaed Mulvaney. Mulvaney. They never subpoenaed John Bolton. They never subpoenaed all the people that they say that Trump obstructed Congress with. That's number one. They never subpoenaed them. Number two, had they subpoenaed them, the president, just like Obama did, would have been well within his rights to exert executive privilege. This is well-settled law. It's not an open question. Number three, the only remedy that the Democrats would have had in such a situation, had they subpoenaed Bolton, had the president exerted executive privilege and told Bolton not to honor the subpoena, in that situation, the proper remedy, the proper constitutional, all these Democrats saying that they're defending the Constitution when they're shredding it, the proper constitutional response is to go to the courts and say, Your Honors, we subpoenaed, President exerted executive privilege, they both have their say in court. One side's going to be happy, the other side isn't. It's going to go to the appellate court. One side will be happy, the other side isn't, and it'll go to the Supreme Court. Or it might be taken directly to the Supreme Court because it involves the other two branches, and if the court grants cert, it will decide by itself. No. The Democrats came out and said, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. The other article of impeachment is for abuse of power, and they went back in testimony back to the 70s. They literally went back to the 70s to things that private citizen Trump did. They want to impeach the president because Orange Man bad. They want to impeach the president because they know they can't win an election. So here are the two big lies that they're telling that are an existential threat to the republic. Number one, Trump is shredding the Constitution, and if we don't stop him, it's going to be disastrous for the Constitution. We are defending the Constitution, say the Democrats. That is completely inverted from reality. The reality is exactly the opposite. The reality is that the Democrats are shredding the Constitution. It was Democrat Adam Schiff that denied the president due process in his impeachment investigation. It was Democrat Adam Schiff that prevented the American public from learning all the facts. So now, Democrat Chuck you Schumer comes on today and speaking very somberly like a senior statesman, and he's just so distressed by the whole process that's been taking 22 months, well, 2.5 years really, said Nancy. You know, they've been doing this. Remember, reluctantly in September, we're going to have to start an investigation that we've been working on for 2.5 years. These people are stupid. They really think that we have the attention span of gnats. Maybe their voters do, we don't. So Chuck you Schumer comes on today and says, this is a horrible situation, and in order to preserve and protect and defend the Constitution, the American public has a right to know all the facts. And the fact that the Republicans are going to work with the president to make this a quick Senate trial and deprive the American public of all the facts. They literally just deprived the American public of all the facts. They literally just deprived the American public from half the facts. They didn't even let the Republicans put on one fact witness, not one. They only put on one fact witness who exculpated the president. And now they're saying that if the Republicans run the trial the way that they want to run the trial and in coordination with the White House, that will be an obstruction of justice in denying the American public the facts. Are you kidding me? So the first big lie they're telling is that they're the ones defending the Constitution and we're the ones shredding it. The reality is exactly the opposite. The second big lie they're telling, and this is even more dangerous, right? Because it's bad enough that you're training people the opposite of the truth regarding the Constitution. Too many people think that the Bill of Rights set out the rights that the government gives to the American public instead of the reverse truth, which is that the Bill of Rights restricts the government's power from encroaching on our rights, our God-given natural rights. Government does not give us our rights. Think about it. If government gives you your rights, government can take them back. Do you trust the government with your rights? Do you trust the government with your guns? A government that couldn't even keep one wealthy, well-known witness in protective custody on suicide watch alive? That government? You trust that government? I don't. And remember, none of this is about party. I want Republicans that are deep state swamp rats to go down just as much as I want Democrat deep state swamp rats to go down. It's not about party. The problem is that both parties have been, two wings of the same dirty bird for too long. We need America First candidates. And that's what Brooke McGowan and I are going to be doing with MAGA Institute, is helping to educate people, not only as to what the Constitution really says, but also which candidates are signed on to the America First agenda. Those are the people that we need in office. The disruptors, the misfits, the malcontents. The malcontents with good intentions. Not the malcontents that are trying to tear down the republic. So lie number one is that they're defending the Constitution and Trump is shredding it. Lie number two is even more dangerous because lie number two is a direct attack on the fundamental voice of you and me. My voice, your voice, at the ballot box. It is a direct attack. It's bad enough that they attack the integrity of our vote with ballot harvesting and with giving illegals driver's licenses so that they can register to vote, which happened in New York State here today. With blatant cheating, with rigging machines, with all the things the Democrats have done for decades. Finding ballots in trunks of cars. Absentee ballot fraud. All the ways that Democrats cheat because they know they can't win an honest, fair, open election. They've gone beyond that this time. They're now saying, they're putting out in the propaganda arm of the DNC, also known as the mainstream media, is pushing out to the mouth-breathing, mindless minions who think that they are well-informed because they get the news from ABC, CNN, NBC, and all the rest of them, that Trump colluded with Russia. They're back to colluding with Russia now. Trump colluded with Russia to rig the 2016 election, and they have to impeach him to stop him from rigging the 2020 election. These are people who have come out and literally said, AOC, we've got to impeach him to avoid a disastrous outcome next fall. Al Green, if we don't impeach him, he will get reelected. And the beauty of them all, we need to impeach him because we have no other option to no other solutions to our problems. They can't win next November. They've got nobody. Nobody. You got corrupt Joe Biden, whose criminal wife, Jill, is just as corrupt and criminal as Cindy McCain is. Oh, and by the way, Megan, yeah, a Horowitz report proved that your daddy gave the dossier. Your daddy got the dossier. Your father, my father. Remember that video montage from The View? This is, the girl would have no career whatsoever. She'd be trying to sell handbags with Monica Lewinsky if it weren't for who her father was. Deep state operative who stood up ISIS, Songbird McCain himself. He's the one, Megan, who gave the dirty fake dossier to the Democrats. He was just as much of a commie-crat as Hillary. John McCain was no Republican. A friend of mine's father flew with McCain. He was in his flight squadron. He said the guy was a prick. It's the worst thing she's ever heard her father say about anyone. He never uses foul language at all. And he called John McCain a prick. These people have no scruples. If it weren't for double standards, they'd have no standards at all. Laws are for the little people. Do as I say, not as I do, isn't just their mantra. It's their raison d'etre. The whole reason, these are career politicians. Nancy Pelosi has never had a job outside of Congress. And she'll say being a homemaker and a mother, and that's fine, that's true, but I'm talking about a professional career. She has no bona fides other than the fact that she's from a corrupt Democrat political family out of Baltimore. Her father was mayor of Baltimore and a congressman. Corrupt to the core. She's made tens of millions of dollars by funneling contracts to her husband, just the way Die Spy with the 20-year Chinese spy driver. How did that happen? Huh. And now they're trying to figure out how did Hillary's servers get hacked? She freaking sold the passcodes to them in exchange for donations to the Clinton Foundation. We all know it. I am concerned for two reasons. Number one, too many people, especially young people, are buying the BS, buying the alternate reality. And they know it's alternate reality because, do you know what they're saying about us? They're saying that we live in alternate reality. We have objective, documentary, testamentary evidence. We've got objective facts on our side. We've got it all. We can prove to documents. We can point to documents. We can prove that what we're saying is true. They can't. And yet they say we are living in an alternate reality where they are the defenders of the Constitution and we are shredding it. And my fear is that too many young people are buying this swill. And that's all it is swill. They've been dumbed down by taking Western civilization. It started with God. First, we're going to take prayer out of the school because prayer is a foundational element of Western civilization. So first we take out prayer, and then we take out Western civilization, and then we stop teaching critical thinking, and then, oh yeah, we start pushing Islam. And now they're going to be hoisted on their own petard, because you know how they're getting Islam in? By saying it's a totalitarian, it's not just a religion, it's a political doctrine too. It's never been a religion. It's always been a political doctrine cloaked in a religion. They use the religious cloak to get special rights when they're in the minority, and then once they get to 5%, they start raising holy hell, and that's what we're seeing now in places like Dearbornistan and Minneapolistan. And then when God help you, if they ever get into the majority where you're living, because then you're a dhimmi, you're a full-fledged dhimmi, you got to pay the jizya, your tax. You're allowed to live there as long as you pay the tax to them. And the Democrats are total dhimmis. Why? It's the totalitarianism. So now their argument for getting the Islam into schools is it's not just a religion, it's a political doctrine. It's all round up into one. Whereas Judaism, you can practice Judaism, but still be a Democrat. You can practice Judaism and be a Republican. Judaism and Christianity and politics aren't inextricably linked, but they are in Islam. So you got to push Islam on the kiddies. Okay, you see how they've gotten the nose is not under the camel's tent. The camel's nose is not under the tent. Okay, the camel has all but his butt under the tent. The only thing sticking out of the tent now are two hind legs and a tail. Wake up, America. But I'm arguing that the more that they push that line, good. We're going to declare you a totalitarian political doctrine, not a religion. Therefore, you lose all your religious protections. See how that works? Keep pushing that line. Keep pushing that line, Commie-crats. So I'm concerned because too many young people are buying this swill. They've been dumbed down with Common Core. They have no ability to think. They're vaping their brains out. They're smoking weed like it's their job, which has demonstrable impact. Older people, fine. Smoking weed from a young age has a demonstrable deleterious effect on brain development. Remember, your frontal cortexes, and again, I'm speaking to you here as a former neuroscientist, okay? I know what I'm talking about. I used to teach this stuff. I used to teach brain science. When I was in college, I taught a seminar to my classmates on brain. I was a senior, and I had seniors in my seminar on biopsychology, so I know what I'm talking about. Weed has proven to delay or impair the development of the frontal lobes. And that's what we use for judgment. for critical thinking, etc. Okay? It's a big danger that we have young people that are too stupid to even know they're stupid. The Democrats have literally been creating an idiocracy. Just like they think 1984 was an instruction manual, they think idiocracy was an instruction manual. I think idiocracy was them laughing at us saying, this is what we're doing to your country, and we want to make a movie about it and show you what we're doing and have you laugh at it. But you don't realize that that's what we're doing. Well, that's what they've been doing with Common Core, with taking out Western civilization, with taking out critical thinking. We have generations now of people too stupid to know that they're stupid. People whose ability to think is so impaired, they don't even know that they can't think. They don't even know that they're not thinking for themselves. They think that they're thinking for themselves when all they do is regurgitate what their TV tells them to regurgitate. That is a danger, because the only way a republic can survive is with an informed electorate. We, however, are not going to go quietly into that good night. We are going to fight back. We're going to keep fighting the good fight. Join us at MAGA Institute. The group is now, we're trying to get it to 10,000 on Facebook. If you're a member, please go to the group page and that invite button. Invite all your friends who you know are MAGA. We're trying to keep out trolls, but we want all MAGA people in. We're trying to grow to 10,000. Please help us. It's going to be one big vehicle for us to educate people on the Constitution. More importantly, to educate people when they go into the ballot box in the primaries, which are the Republican candidates they should be voting for, which are the America First candidates. We need as many America First candidates in the general election as we can get. No more rhinos. Help us go rhino hunting. Join MAGA Institute. Keep up with the channel here. Please like these videos. Please share them into your groups on Facebook. And until next time, God bless you. God bless these United States. Keep fighting the good fight.